Now let's take a look at improvisation from chapter 4 on page 98. First thing we're going to do is to follow the instructions on number 1. It says to play the following triad progressions hands together using the keys of D major, F major, A major. Use closest position voicing. So for simplicity's sake, we're going to be keeping this sort of more or less in root position, cadence positions, okay? So let's look at the primary chords. We have a 1 chord here, a 4 chord, a 5 chord, a 5 chord, and a 1 chord. So the only 2 chords that are different are going to be the 2 chord, here and here, and the 3 chord. Okay. So first of all, let's determine what hand position, what hand shape is going to work for those chords most easily. All right. So let's take just C major as an arbitrary key here. So we know that we have a 1, 4, 1, 5, 1 cadence. Okay, so 1, 4, and 5 are covered. Okay, what's the closest way to get to minor 2 chord? Well, there's 2 minor 2 chords that exist. There's the one that's in root position, and that's the closest. Okay, so we'll do 2 in root position. The other one that we could do is there, but that's a little further, so we'll stay on root. Now, if you want to be creative, you can absolutely be creative and do a more complicated version where you're starting in different inversions. And then for the 3 chord, here's a 3 chord, E, G, B. So E and G actually are in the 1 chord, and the B is down here. So the closest one is actually a 6-4. So we'll do the 6-4, second inversion. Okay. So let's try this in C major first. So 1, 4, going to 2, which means you just move your thumb up to D, back to 5, now 3 goes to 3rd finger, like that, back to the 2 chord, back to the 5 chord, and back to the 1 chord. Okay, so again, this is just the simplest version you could do. You could be very creative, and maybe I'll demonstrate some at the end of different variations you could practice. So now let's try this in the key of D major. Okay, 1 chord, 4 chord, 2 chord, move the bottom up to E, down to the 5 chord, 3 chord just goes to F sharp, back to the 2 chord, E minor, back to the 5 chord, and back to the 1 chord. Let's do it in F major. It might take you a little practice, so if you need to pause the video, go ahead. You can also slow down the video. 1 chord, 4 chord, minor 2 chord, G minor, 5 chord, 3 chord, go to A, 2 chord, G minor, 5 chord, 1 chord. And now to A major, 1 chord, 4 chord, minor 2 chord, go up to B, 5 chord, minor 3 chord, go to C sharp, minor 2 chord is B minor, 5 chord, 1 chord. Okay. You can submit each of those as individual videos. That's perfectly fine. Now let's go to the next thing we're going to be doing. Number 2, it says improvise a right hand melody consisting of triads, thirds of triads only, thirds of triads, which means you can play 2 of the notes. Since the pitch content gives you very little chance for creativity, the interest must come from your use of rhythm and rests. You may always end your improvisation on tonic. Okay? So it says play the following example in the key of D major as another student plays the progression. Okay? So you are doing a melody, all right? You're improvising a melody that is consisting of thirds of triads only. So let's talk about what this means if you're improvising on thirds of triad. Okay, so thirds of triads, which means you're just going to take thirds. So let's say that we are in D major and we're doing what we just did, 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 2, 5, Thirds are going to be like this. I might just play D and F sharp. The 4 chord, think about what the 4 chord is, might just be that. 2 chord could be that. 5 chord, that. 3 chord, maybe I go to here. 2 chord, maybe back to here. 5 chord, and 1 chord. That's one example. Okay, so I'm just basically playing the triad, but I'm leaving off one of the notes. That's all I'm doing. Playing the triad, but leave off one of the notes. Okay, so I'm going to give you one example of a rhythm. You can try any rhythm you want. Okay, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just basically improvising a rhythm on that. Okay? So that's all you're going to do for this improvisation here. So you'll play through the top of the page in D, F, and A, and then you're just going to improvise a little bit off the thirds. You can be as creative as you want. So I'm going to just demonstrate real quick a few other ways you could have improvised this. So I'll do the first part, and this time I'm not going to start in root position. So here's D major. 1 chord, 2, 3, 4 chord. Then to the 2 chord, to the 5 chord, to the 3 chord, to the 2 chord, 5 chord, and 1 chord. So notice how I started in first inversion and I just ascended. And that kind of creates a nice sensation of rising tension, like that. Okay? And later on, we will learn to improvise melodies over these. So I could improvise now. So those are obviously much more elaborate renditions of this, but I'm just showing you that as you develop greater mastery of these concepts, and obviously your scales and arpeggios, then it grants you a lot greater freedom in how you can interpret these things from the understanding of theory. We all start from zero. We all start from nothing. So when you see someone who can actually improvise this, and it looks like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to do that, just remember where you started and where you are now, and just keep in mind that you too can do it.